Hello, right, back again. This is going to be part 2 of the patch repair video because it was just taking too long. So what I'll do is I'll skip through some bits here, but we've done essentially the hard part. But I'll just kind of talk through, probably time lapse a few bits, and then we'll catch up with some of the more important kind of sections, I guess. So I'm just on to repair and finish up this bit. All I've done really is I've flat backed some of the outer material, and I've removed the sections, including slats underneath. So I just cut through there with the slitting disc, just very carefully from above. After I'd peeled this section kind of down out of the way, so obviously the lower lip's still on, and there's some repair work to do here. So what I'm going to do off camera is put some patches in here and make a repair panel for here, and then we'll go about kind of getting this into its final fit up, which is just really a case of cutting a little bit, marking up, cutting, you know, grind a bit off, fit it back up, check the fit, take it back off, grind a bit more, check the fit until we're ready to weld it in. The only other thing I've done is I've primed the back with some high zinc weld through primer, which is the U-Pol weld through primer that I've got. So that is pretty much ready to go on here once all of this is repaired. So yeah, so that's the plan. Like I say, a bunch of time lapses probably. And we'll come back for some of the bits where we talk a bit more about, you know, what's actually going on, test the fit up, get it all lined up, buttered up, and then we'll do some welding around it. So yeah, let's get on to it then. Right, so done some trimming of the patch panel, and a little bit on the edges of the arch. Repaired the inner arch. That's all sprayed, filled, solid again. What I think I'm going to do for this bit is I still need to do the top cut of the inner wing, of the arch, sorry, inner wing. But what I do have is a slightly different, ever so slightly different profile of the new panel versus the original, which probably isn't that much of a surprise because it's a aftermarket panel. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit it up now as best I can to get the body line to match up. So I'll probably spot weld it flush there. I'll probably spot weld it flush there once I jig that about. And I'll put a couple of spot welds up on the top. And then with the slitting disc, what I'll do is I'll come across, cut behind it while it's held in place. Then I'll probably grind through that, take that off, retrieve, obviously you'll be left with a small piece of metal, you know, like a 5mm slither. So I'll probably cut the panel off again, retrieve that, and then fit it all back up again, because then at least we know that it's sitting where it needs to, if that makes sense. It's the way, you know, bad chards and all the rest of it kind of do it. So what I'll do is I'll spot it where I need it to be pretty accurate. I can cut wherever I need to along once it's spotted and held in to where I need it. And then I can just take it off and refit. Grind it all off and refit it. So at least I know that it's perfect to where I need it to be. Because at the minute there's a few... yeah, the profile is just not quite the same. I can hammer and dolly it round, but I'd like it to be as close as possible first, so at least the major lines, body lines line up. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. Just another quick note. Obviously underneath is originally spot welded. I don't yet have a spot welder. I am looking for one, to be honest. So what we'll do is we'll probably plug weld back to the inner arch. I do have, so I've got a big compressor in the workshop, so it's easy for me to do this, but what we do have is a punch and well, it's an edge joggler and a punch. so it does like faces and punches holes through sheet metal. If you do have a bunch of panels to plug weld and all the rest of it, and some edges to face off and joggle and bits and pieces, then I'd recommend one of these, because I think they're quite cheap. I mean, it's like 50 quid or something for that. Obviously you've got to have a compressor to run it. I've got an SGS compressor, so 150 litre, I think, 3 horsepower, and it's literally and it does the edge and it does the plug. So that saves obviously that'll save a bunch of time for drilling and bits and pieces. So while if you're like me, if you're waiting for a spot welder, maybe that's a way of doing it in the short term. I'll show you the edge face as well. Didn't do a particularly good job of that because doing the one-handed with a GoPro on my knee, but that puts your edge in. So if you wanted to do a kind of a lap in the plug, you can do that in one with that. So that's worth considering if you do have a compressor and you want to run a bunch of plug welds, or you need to do a bunch of panel work. That's not too bad. Obviously, plug welding is nowhere near as fast as spot welding, but you don't need to have a spot welder. So something I would recommend if you're going to do it. Obviously, it's up to you. You can always drill it and plug it if you want to. Okay, so all I've done there is put a few spots on to hold it in place while I get the body line lined up. So what I want was the arch as near as I can get it, obviously. The lower profile isn't actually too far off, this bit is, but we can dolly that up, so that's not too bad. So now, what I kind of need to do is, with the slitting disc, I'll come back in and I'll go across here, following the profile of the patch. And I kind of come down in at an angle, if that makes sense, kind of downwards a little bit, to minimize the gap, because then as we get here to this side where the profile doesn't match the metal here, what we'll do is we'll dolly that round and then slice down there, and then we'll retrieve the piece of metal, the old piece of metal, which will be behind here, and we can grind through these tacks, take this bag off, fit it up again, and then line it up for the final time. And then once we start spotting it in, then we just need to go around and spot, you know, alternate your sides, maybe get some air onto it just to keep the panel cool, stop it all warping out, and then that will be this panel put in. So that's essentially it. So all we're going to do now is do the final fit up, where I'll slice down, slice across, slice down, so we've got a good square gap all the way around, and then it's a case of spot welding it all back on again. Take it off, retrieve the old metal, clean it all up for the one last time, make sure everything's solid, and then that goes on in to the gap, weld it up, we'll spot all the way around it, and then it'll be a light skimmer filler, and that's that done. So I mean, not really a whole lot to it. It's just the effort you put in marking up, matching profiles, making sure you're taking the right piece of your patch out, and all the rest of it is where you get your kind of benefits at the end, because it makes your life a lot easier rather than chasing this panel, chasing bits all over. So that's the way, that's one of the ways to do it anyway. And to be honest, what's the worst that can happen? You might as well have a go. If you want to do it, just, you know, for minimal tooling, away you go. Yeah, so I don't know how well you can see that, to be honest. So what I did was I took the panel, the repair patch out. Had the repair patch on, cut around the top with the slitting disc, and basically ended up with this. So that came out the back. I then went round and cut that to try and fit that gap up. It's not brilliant, but the weld will fill that, so I'm not too concerned, and you don't need to be really. Obviously the better fit up you can get, the easier it is. The bit that I'm really concerned with is getting these body lines as square as I can get them and as flush as I can get them, so that by the time I spot around it all and continue, you know, spot, 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 manage to heat in the panel, which you can also do. This isn't working, I can't see. Which you can also do with the heat gun, with air gun. So once you spot, as you spot around, if you've done a few spots, you can always go back over it and give it a little bit of an air blast to cool it off. Trying to keep it as flush as possible. Haven't done that great a job there, to be honest, but again, the weld will bring that back out, and I might, if I hammer that off, I might be able to just soften it enough to bring it forward. So we'll do that in a minute. But yeah, obviously all we're going to do is just continue to spot round until this is completely filled. There are methods where you can put, you know, 2 or 3 spots together, spot, 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 and then straight on with the air to cool it off. So we'll do that just to speed things up. But for now, this is kind of where we're at. So the patch panel's in, the body lines match up, which is what I'm really looking for, to be honest. And the rest of it is just welding. So we'll get that welded in as best we can. And yeah, we'll come back when we're a bit further forward. All right there, so it's a few days later. I ran out of gas. It was just a little disposable bottle. Ran out of gas. Unfortunately, it's this sort of time of year where everyone's swanning around in Christmas jumpers, so you can't really get anything. So I ended up getting another little disposable bottle, which will do for this sort of stuff, so that'll be all right. Just a little CO2 mix. So yeah, all I'm doing now is I'm cleaning up a bunch of the spot welds. I think last time we said we were going to do spot, 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 and then just move around the panel. You can cool it with an airline, obviously. I think I said last time as well. So a little airline just to cool the panel off while you're doing it. And all I'm doing now is I'm going to grind this as flush as I can get it all. Anywhere where I can still see a gap. I don't know if you can see that. Hope you can. A gap, so like there we'll need a weld, there, you know, there. So it's just a case of going over everything, getting it all ground out as best we can without taking too much out, because if you're not using the greatest welder and your fit up isn't as great as mine probably isn't, they can't just pop apart because there's not enough material, not enough penetration on the weld. So I'm going to grind this all out. I'll go back around, spot a few more little bits and pieces because I can see some bits and pieces I need spotting over, and then it'll basically be done. So I'll literally just grind it all off, do some more spots, grind it off, see how it looks, and then you just repeat that process until you get it as flush as you can get it. Obviously the least amount of fill you can get in, the better. Not that matters on this, it seems to be about 1/2 inch thick there. Yeah, you know. So yeah, I'm just going to keep going. I'll do as best as I can. And this is really just to show you that you can do this at home without much kit, you know, if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be the end of your project if you have to do a little bit of welding. So yeah, let's just keep going. Just quickly bring it back. So ground it all out. Not entirely flush, but certainly close enough for now. And all I've done is, I don't know if the GoPro will pick that up or not. Everywhere there's kind of a void or a bit of welds missing or whatever, I've just marked out in Sharpie, so when I've got the welder mask on, I'll be able to fairly quickly see where I need just to do the last few spots. And once these bits are in, that's basically it. So I'll quickly do this, just do some welding. Again, with the airline, I'll cool the panel so I can keep going. So I'll weld, you know, 4 or 5 spots, go over it with the airline, weld 4 or 5 spots, go over it with the airline, and just keep moving around the panel so it doesn't move. I mean, that is essentially it. And you can use this, you could use this method for anything really, but thin bodywork especially if you're using something like a cheap little MIG. So that's like a Sealy Mighty MIG 150, whatever that is. and I just have it on 1 minimum with about 3.5 on the YSBs, and it seems to work right for this thickness of body, about 1. Okay, so back again. As you can see, I've kind of gone as far as I think I'm going to go. I think the problem with this is you can go forever, right? And you'll always find something else to go over. I just need to thin this out a little bit, and obviously, like I say, I'll do some more work underneath there to get the lip profile to match up, but that's no big shakes. So yeah, that's kind of it for this video, I think, really. With a little bit more fettling and grinding there, that's ready for a skimmer filler. And then obviously I can match it up to the rest of the bus. So that's about it, really. So yeah, so I'll tidy this up a little bit more, not much. I mean, it only needs a few little bits and pieces there. I am doing all that with a little flap disc. I'm not a big, with a flap disc, which is probably harder than it should be. I think like a little power file, a little band file would be a lot better. Finger file, whatever you want to call it, would be a lot easier. But obviously, this is just what I've got to hand, so that's what I'm using. So yeah, so that's about it for this one. Hopefully someone's got a bit of use out of it. Like I say, it's not, there's better ways to do it. And certainly if you're restoring something higher end, or you want to do a much better job, then the full panels and spot weld and all the rest of it the way to go. But this is an easy way to do a little patch. Doesn't take a lot of time, and it's not as hard as people make out, so it's worth a go. So yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.